You're listening to 99.1 WQRT LP, and welcome to Radio Free Book Club for June 2025. I'm Ken Honeywell. I'm a writer and reader from Indianapolis, and today, like our good friend and Radio Free Book Club member Tracy Kumbe, we're moving to Colorado. And we already miss her. To hang out with a couple of guys, Bunny Simpson and Jerry LeClaire, who get caught up in some pretty unsavory stuff I won't even begin to describe for fear of dropping a spoiler before we even start the show. In Patrick Hoffman's novel Friends Helping Friends. Patrick Hoffman has worked for a couple of decades as a private investigator. His first novel, The White Van, was shortlisted for a Crime Writers of America's Ian Fleming Steel Dagger Award. It was listed as one of the 10 best mysteries of 2014 by the Wall Street Journal. Best Book of the Year by the San Francisco Chronicle, one of the 22 best literary debuts by BuzzFeed. His second novel, 2016's Every Man a Menace, was also listed as a top thriller of the year by Wall Street Journal. His third novel was 2020's Clean Hands, and Friends Helping Friends is his fourth. So in a world of crime fiction here, and thank goodness we've assembled a great team of Radio Free Book Club members, all of whom are known to have criminal minds, if not criminal hearts. So let's meet them. Hello, Alex.
Hey, Ken. My name is Alex Mattingly. I'm a writer and reader from Fillmore, Indiana, and I'm the one who chose this book.
Yeah, and Alex, you have a newish blog and magazine. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so in March I launched Cold Caller Magazine, which is actually a Substack, and we're a crime fiction review. So we're gearing up to start publishing fiction in June, actually, which was sooner than I expected. But we got a lot of really great submissions. So yeah, it's been going well. It's been a little overwhelming because I assumed I would spend like the first 6 months just begging people to send stuff in.
Yeah.
And that happily has not been the case, but now I have the opposite problem of just like sifting through a slush pile. But there's been some really good stuff, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you had some other good news recently. Can you tell us that?
Yes. So in my other life as a crime fiction writer, I also write under the name Craig Francis Coates. And I got the news this year, just last month maybe, that my short story Grendel was selected for the Best American Mysteries and Suspense 2025, which is also very exciting.
It is awesome. Yeah, congratulations, Alex.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Hello, Robin, longtime club member.
Hi. Robin Beery, also a writer and reader from Indianapolis. I feel like you're going to make me admit that I have a Substack, so I'm just going to
just go ahead and come right out with it, please.
It is partial and imperfect, where I write under the name Robin David. So,
yeah, thanks, Robin. It's a really good Substack, and I would encourage everyone to subscribe.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Jen Bingham, hello.
Hi, I'm Jen Bingham, a reader from Indianapolis, and about 3 weeks ago I was kayaking in Dublin Bay and a seal swam directly under my kayak, which was magical.
Wow, how lucky is that?
It was awesome.
That's got to be some kind of a lucky sign, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. I paid to go on this seal kayaking expedition that promised me that I would see seals, so
Yeah.
I think that is how I did it rather than luck.
Well, so you think it was a trained seal?
Maybe not.
You think it was they had a ringer
there's
seal?
There's a deal. There's a deal going on. It may not be a trained seal, but
Yeah.
it's getting a payout.
Right. That seal was getting a herring at the end of that thing.
Yes, indeed. I did see someone sneak up to it afterward.
Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you, everybody. And now, before we take our trip to the seedier side of Denver, you should know that we will be spoiling Friends Helping Friends early and often. There's plenty to spoil here. So if you're planning to read it, now would be a good time to stop listening. You can come back later, which is easy because you can find this and all the episodes of Radio Free Book Club on Spotify, Apple, just about anywhere you stream podcasts. We hope you'll subscribe to our Radio Free Book Club Substack, our free Radio Free Book Club Substack, for non-spoiler notes about the book, including whether or not we would recommend it. So let's talk about Friends Helping Friends. Alex, this was your selection. Why did you choose it? Why did you want to talk about it?
I chose this book. There was an excerpt published on Crime Reads, maybe, I don't know, in March, that I read and liked, and I was kind of intrigued by the premise and read a few more reviews and liked it. Also feel like I've got a good track record with crime novels that have friends in the title. I really liked Friends of Eddie Coyle. I liked A Friend is a Gift You Give Yourself. So I was like, yeah, this sounds great.
Let's go for another friend.
A Friends trilogy, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you familiar with Patrick Hoffman?
No, I wasn't. I was actually surprised to see he already had 4 well-regarded books out. I hadn't heard of him before. Crime fiction in general is, as far as genres go, probably the one I read and enjoy the most.
That's good, because you're like editing a magazine of crime fiction.
Right.
Now.
I actually can't stand this stuff. But I like to imagine I'm well read, but I'm constantly being surprised by how many authors are new to me, which is a nice problem to have. But yeah, this was the first time I had heard of him.
Yeah, Jen, Robin, ever heard of Patrick Hoffman? Any familiarity with him?
Not a peep.
Not me either.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the book. Alex, crime novel. Is this a great crime novel or the greatest crime novel ever?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think if I had an initial complaint, I feel like the book blurbs set me up for a very different experience, because and this is kind of the nature of blurbs, so I'm not going to blame anybody. But I think they were almost all kind of united, talking about this fast-paced, like breathless, surprising, and it was surprising, but the first 2/3 I felt like were a very slow burn, not slow read. I enjoyed it. I really loved the character Bunny Simpson, who's kind of one of our 3 maybe protagonists, and probably of those 3 the main one. But he had an occasional like outburst of violence, but overall he's a pretty relaxed dude. So is his friend Jerry. They're not like a rough and tumble group of guys. They get pulled into these situations. But aside from a couple scenes, this really isn't just like a nonstop action-packed shoot 'em up. It's a very different type of crime story. But actually, as the book went on, I thought that was kind of a nice surprise. I actually really enjoyed that aspect.
Yeah, what'd you think, Jen?
I really liked it. I thought it was well done. I did think it started out with kind of a bang, because it starts out with the crime being discussed very quickly, I believe.
Well, it's at least alluded to that something is going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I loved Bunny. I enjoyed sort of the unlikable characters getting into their heads a little bit. The ending, I felt like I was happy with it because I liked the characters, but it did seem a little... I think from what the reviews I read, he's trying to make up for past dark endings with this one.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that, but he succeeded, I guess, if that's what he was going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think, Robin?
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I read it pretty slowly, which is not my usual approach with crime fiction, but it wasn't because I felt necessarily that the book was slow. It's just because that's been kind of my reading pace lately. So I had kind of forgotten, Jen, that it does kind of do a lot of, after getting to the initial, after the initial scene, which puts us right kind of in the middle of things, it kind of does a lot of backfilling of not exactly exposition, but they kind of flash back to scenes from earlier in the story, which I actually thought was pretty effective, but it does slow things down a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I read it, actually, I listened to it mostly the first time. I wanted to order it from the bookstore, and it wasn't in yet, so I listened to a lot of the way through the first time, and then I read it all the way through, and I enjoyed it more when I read it than when I listened to it. I knew the story a little bit too, so I could pay attention to the details. But I thought it was pretty effective. I was pretty impressed by how many possible developments he teased. For example, there were kind of like really subtle red herrings throughout the whole story, and it was for as kind of I don't know, Alex. It wasn't exactly slow.
Yeah, I mean,
But it was not, but not a lot. I mean, it was really even kind of thickly plotted, but it wasn't, not a lot of stuff really happened.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's that. I don't know. It's an interesting question because one of the things that I think, and I'm not using, just to be clear, slow as a pejorative. Like I really enjoyed the pace, but there were so many moments with Bunny or with Jerry. Like one that stands out is like there's a pause where he describes like Bunny gets out of a car and he sees a piece of concrete on the ground and he picks it up and he throws it at a post. But there's a lot of moments like that with Bunny where he's just like kind of bored, kind of not sure what else to do, just easily distracted, easily like he sees a car pulls up and you get like a few sentences of, gosh, it'd be really nice to have a car like that. Or
right.
like
he's going to start the motorcycle shop and he's going to, he's dreaming all these little dreams throughout.
And it's such great characterization because by the end you kind of love him because he just kind of is this guy, but it definitely affects the pace of the book because he's not a protagonist who's like constantly scheming about how he's going to get out of this situation or get revenge on somebody or whatever typically drives your crime fiction protagonist. He's trying to get out of a sticky situation and he knows he's in over his head, but he's also just seemingly like unable to really think far enough ahead to like come up with some elaborate plot. Like he knows he's kind of being pushed along and he's looking for his little opportunities, but he's not going to be the one to come up with like an elaborate, 12-stage plan that's going to get him out of this mess.
Yeah, he's not the brains of the outfit.
Right, and neither is Jerry.
Neither is Jerry.
Unfortunately for both of them.
Yeah, I agree. Do you guys have any trouble with the pacing?
No, I actually didn't have any. I read the book pretty quickly. I enjoyed it. I started it. I was like, oh God, this is going to be a dark one. So once I got past that initial feeling of sort of dread, I read through it pretty quickly. And in relation to your talk about how Bunny doesn't make plans, one thing I really liked about it was after Jerry gets out of prison, his friends kind of convince him that Bunny's the bad guy, and he creates this huge like mind vortex of his own about how Bunny's f***ing him over. But then as soon as he talks to Bunny, it all goes away because Bunny's nice, and he's able to like talk him down from that.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. Like, I guess that's part of what you were talking about the possibilities, because it could have gone into a really dark revenge place.
Yeah, that's point. Definitely one of those times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Robin, what did you think of the narrative voice? What did you think? I mean, that was a weird kind of omniscient narrative voice.
Yeah, you're right. Especially early on, I feel like it did it less so the further the book went on. But we were inside a bunch of characters' heads. Bunny's first, I think, and then Jerry's. And, well, maybe not Jerry's next, but Helen, the woman who sort of hires Bunny and Jerry to do this hit on her ex-husband. I guess I don't have to. You've all read it, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But he was also, or I say he, the narrator was also in Jerry's head and in Tad's head and in who was the bad guy, the Nelson. Yeah, he was in Nelson's head. He was in the one that I don't quite understand why was the one kid, George somebody who was like Baby George or something. I think his name was. He had one section.
Was he the one who, like, the Reddit to 4chan to
yes, that kid.
White supremacist gang?
Yes.
That stood out to me too. As it was, and I was glad it didn't last longer than it did because it felt awkwardly placed and it felt almost like he had done this research into like certain types of like young men who might get pulled into this thing, and was like, well, I need to put this in the book somewhere. But it felt very out of place to me in a weird way. And I think maybe I hadn't thought about this until Robin was talking about kind of the way it shifted a lot more earlier on and kind of settled into a few characters later. But I think that character and that scene were also late enough that it probably felt more jarring where it was than if it had been at the very beginning of the book.
Yeah, but by the way, that guy died at the end.
Yeah, he got shot.
Yeah, he was one of the guys who got killed at the end. So, I don't know, maybe we were supposed to weep for him a little bit or something, but he just kind of, he just died. And now I forgot where I was going since I short-stopped myself there.
Well, I was going to, I could go
please.
on a little bit more about that, because I was thrown first by the Tad inclusion, Helen's ex-husband, but I was happy overall when I reflected on the oddness of that we had Helen's point of view, at least for some of the book. Did we go back to her point of view?
Oh, yeah.
Second half of the book?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And in fact, her point of view was very important at the end when she disappeared from the motel room with the book.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And the reason that I was happy with that was because I feel like Hoffman avoided a real kind of cliched femme fatale in Helen, which was kind of nice to see. Because, she so easily could have been this person who just manipulates Bunny and Jerry and, first gets what she wants and then gets herself out of trouble at their expense. But it was very refreshing to see her kind of actually care about them on some level and, help them out at the end, because as Alex noted, neither one of them were really the brains of the operation.
No, they were like a couple rungs up from Beavis and Butthead, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe on that same rung. That's a very good point and I hadn't thought of that, about giving her more depth. She was pretty unlikable, so I think one of the benefits of the other characters is giving you a contrast to Helen's sort of unlikableness and her having a turn where she makes the decision a couple times to do something out of kindness instead of spite. So that was interesting to see that character make that turn.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I also think that beyond just being in all these different characters' heads, we also had kind of an omniscient narrator who knew more than all the characters did as well. There were just little flashes of that. And it was, a lot more telling than, or a lot more showing than telling. Or no, a lot more telling than showing. Is that more of a crime novel thing, Alex, or am I wrong about that?
I might need you to elaborate. I
thought it was very. We were more, even when we were in people's heads, we were kind of just told what they were thinking.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I wouldn't say that's like a crime novel trope necessarily. I think there are definitely plenty of crime novels where the showing and telling balance is probably on the polar opposite end of the spectrum. And if I was really smart, I'd be able to whip up some examples right now. But but it didn't stand out to me. You had sent those questions ahead of time as kind of thought starters, and it didn't really stand out to me until I read that. And then I paused and thought about it. I think you're right that the balance is probably more telling than showing, but I still felt like overall, I had a pretty good sense of kind of where we were descriptively, had a good sense of the characters. Maybe less visually. Certain things I feel like were told, but it felt, maybe it just took a couple times for it to sink in, but by the end it was pretty clear, like, hey, Bunny's a pretty good looking guy. And that kind of like comes up a few times through the book. But
and Jerry might have been a little chubby. He thought he was anyway.
But like these visual descriptions, they weren't. I guess they weren't sticky enough initially. So as they were kind of coming up again through the end, it just felt like I didn't have a very clear image of who the characters were until we were getting toward the very end of the novel, and that might be kind of symptomatic of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I do feel like I had kind of a good sense of place, though. Did you all think that? Did you feel like? Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I thought like Bunny was kind of like young, good-looking. You know, who's the guy who played Ken in the Barbie movie?
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
Ryan
Gosling.
He could be a good Bunny Simpson.
Yeah, he'd have to be a lot younger, but
Well,
yeah.
true.
It would be helpful, authors, if you could have your other characters.
You could cast it for us.
Yeah, just have your
please.
other characters
Looks
say,
like Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah, you could be a young Elizabeth Taylor, Helen.
Well, what'd you think about the characters in general? How'd we like them, Jen? What'd you think? Any that you just really loved and hated?
Loved Bunny, and then was kind of medium on Jerry and Helen. I mean, there's a lot of real awful people in this book.
Who was the worst?
The uncle was pretty bad. The prison guard, who was sort of seeming like he was going to molest Jerry, was pretty bad.
He was bad.
He was real bad. There was a bunch of white supremacists who murdered people, Nazis.
It's bad.
There was
Seems
a lot of
bad.
bad people in this, and it was enjoyable to. There was a lot of process in this book too, like booking people, how a jail works, how white supremacist organizations work. That moved the book forward in a really, like, when I read that he had been a private investigator, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. He seems to know and understand crime pretty well. It was well done.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Robin?
I agree with that. I also thought the cops were kind of mean.
I
Those
hated
were
them.
So
dirty
bad.
cops.
Right.
And they were
The
mean,
ATF
right?
Right.
guys too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated those cops.
They were the worst.
Yeah, they were. They were also going to cut off Bunny's thumb.
Yep.
I was a little disappointed they didn't, and not in like a mean way, but I think that was for me. So Jen, I didn't read the reviews, but hearing that there may have been reviews saying like this was given a happy ending because his others were too dark. Like, I almost wonder if he was overcompensating, because it just felt like it was such a happy ending for the characters that I was like, well, it probably shouldn't be this happy. Like,
That's
Bunny
how I
probably
felt,
should have
too.
lost a thumb. He doesn't have to be like
Too
tortured,
happy. Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just keep talking about that. I mean, is there anything that you found particularly unbelievable plot-wise?
I got to the very end with the crypto guy, and I started skimming it because it was just, I don't know, there was something about the scene with the crypto guy where I was like, I think he's going to steal their money, but I also couldn't pay attention because it was just, I don't know. It seemed a little over the top and dumb that she happened to run into somebody who was that much of a crypto expert, and then whoever, I don't know if it was the same guy or a different guy, that she ended up hooking the two guys
Yeah,
up
that was
to.
a different guy.
But I was like, how do you find this many crypto guys who aren't going to steal your money?
Yeah, I thought that whole, like, it's Ginger's brother. Then she remembered Ginger's brother knew something about crypto. That was a little convenient.
Yeah, I heard writing advice that, like, you can't have coincidences in your story unless it's bad for your protagonist. And I felt like toward the end of this, it felt like we were getting too many coincidences that were good for them. And yeah, I mean, that with the crypto guys, kind of the whole shootout at the end where everybody kind of convenes at just the right time for things to work out. And again, like a really, like our heroes kind of emerge unscathed from this really impossible situation, mostly because they got lucky enough that the right people showed up at the right time with the right guns. And so I like a happy ending. Like it was very sweet, like where the Bunny and Jerry ended up, but it just felt like it started to cheat just a little bit to get them there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I don't I don't remember them ever saying they were going to his mom's house. Am I wrong about that?
He started if you look, like, I started noticing he was directing him to a certain place. I don't think Bunny fully knew he was going to his mom's house.
Yeah, I
He
don't
got
think
into that area and was like,
I better go tell my mom what's
bet-
going on.
yeah, more like he was drawn there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because Jerry said Jerry had tried to call his mom. He was like, "We got to let the moms know."
Well, and then it's not even really his mom's. This is another like coincidence, and I guess this would be a bad coincidence, but like his mother was caretaking for somebody, right? But I thought it wasn't her house, which then I was like, well, how did the cops figure out like where she was so quickly and get there in anticipation that Bunny would go there? And maybe it was her house and she was caretaking for the woman and not the proper. I might need to go back and reread it, but it just felt like everybody kind of knows where to go, even though like in theory there probably wouldn't be like a big paper record saying she's living with this woman to help take care of her.
Right.
Yeah.
We needed a chapter, not a chapter, but a section inside the cops' heads, so we could figure out how they got there.
Yeah, I think that would actually, have helped a little bit. Like, how do they narrow in?
Except we don't want to be there. We don't want to be in
well,
there. They're terrible.
True.
Did you have any sympathy for any of the bad guys? Like Blanche? Did you have any sympathy for Blanche while she was getting stuffed into the trunk?
I liked all the people at the car place. I thought they were okay villains.
Yeah, they were just drug dealers.
Yeah.
Well, they were connected to the white supremacists too, but...
Yeah. They didn't seem super excited about that, though.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just kind of hangers-on, I think. Yeah. Spider might have,
At first, until you, like...
Right. Until you get to know him, yeah. And I couldn't decide if he seemed likable because he was like a decent guy, maybe caught up with the wrong crowd type of thing, or if it was just like, yeah, this is the boss's nephew, so I have to be really putting my best foot forward. He also gets beaten up pretty badly, which I think automatically engenders some sympathy, and then like Bunny has to step in to protect. So I feel like Spider, of all kind of the villains in the white supremacist gang, gets treated the most sympathetically. But yeah, I don't know if it's fair to call him like a good guy.
I don't think you can call him a good guy.
Yeah.
I kind of like them stuffing all those guys in the trunks at the car dealership. That was a nice little touch.
That was a good solution to the problem. Yeah.
And then they called and let him out, too.
Yeah, I mean, that was really big of them to do that. Yeah. I want to, I marked, I loved Bunny and Jerry's relationship. I just thought they were great together. Like this is after they were out on the road. They were kind of like on their way out of town. Let's see. Jerry drove and Bunny rode shotgun. The only thing they carried with them was their money, the black notebook, and the 2 guns which they'd hidden between the seat cushions in the back seat. The car still smelled faintly of Angel's perfume. They called Juan Carlos from a block number on Jerry's phone and told him the situation. He didn't seem overly concerned. "We should have kept a bit of crank for that drive," said Bunny. "Nah," said Jerry. "It's time to clean up." "You're right again," said Bunny, slapping his own leg. "It's time to clean up. We got to live like mercenaries now. I'd like to go vegan," said Bunny. "Me too," said Jerry. "Let's do that. I want to get in shape too. I don't need to lift weights, but I'd like to at least be able to run a mile in under 7.5 minutes. Yeah, we got to get our beach bodies. It takes discipline, though." "That's true," said Bunny. "It does." I love those guys.
There was also a scene where they started just saying, "Look at us" to each other, like sort of a call out to that Paul Rudd Hot Ones episode where they're just riffing off each other. I thought that was pretty cute too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some nice moments at the end. I can't remember which is which, but I think it's like Jerry kind of has he's overwhelmed. He kind of starts crying, and it talks about Bunny kind of coming over and rubbing his back for a minute. Like there's some real like sweetness between them. Like there are these really tender moments, and I almost wish that we had gotten a little bit more of their history, because when the book opens, when they're first introduced, like it doesn't. I mean, they're friendly and they're friends, but you don't quite get the sense of the history that I think has kind of bonded them the way that they are. And maybe it's partly the experience they're having now, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of those two characters growing up together or getting into scrapes together of some kind, because I am sure that happened a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know if they just had already established this kind of trust, or if they were just kind of dim, or maybe both. But I mean, like Jen, as you were talking about, there was a point in the book where where Jerry was wondering if Bunny was going to rat him out. And he confronted Bunny, and it was just like, Bunny was just like, well, I wouldn't do that. And Jerry was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, so this book didn't have chapters, just had sections. Robin, do you think that contributed at all to your reading experience?
I didn't notice it until you mentioned it, which is, again, a little disturbing to me. But I think it was because I was reading it so slowly that it never really hit me that I had not come to a stopping point. So not for me.
Yeah. Anybody feel that way?
No, I think he did a good job with that.
Yeah, I think it makes it pretty digestible.
Yeah, usually not having chapters drives me crazy. So kudos to him.
So let's talk just a little bit more specifically about the ending. Good ending? Jen, you're shaking and nodding your head at the same time.
Yeah, I would say good and bad. We've kind of alluded to the fact that things wrapped up a little too neatly and a little too happily. But at the same time, I really liked Bunny and even Jerry so much that I was happy that it wrapped up that nicely. I was really, I don't know, the whole Helen disappearing and then showing back up thing did not seem realistic to me. But again, I was happy for Bunny to get his $900,000.
Yeah, she ultimately had kind of a mothering thing going on.
Yeah.
She wanted to help those young boys, kind of, and possibly sleep with them, maybe. But we don't, we're not going to judge Helen. But I wonder if she was going to move to California with him. She said she was going to.
Yeah, they kind of allude to like this being the last time. I think right before she leaves or something, that the last time that they would see her. So I wasn't expecting her to appear again. I took that as, and this was one
that's
of the red
right. They
herrings
did,
you're
didn't
talking
they?
about.
They say
they
like that
did,
was the
yeah.
last time they ever saw her.
But then, she turns up again, or she calls them and gives them the money, and I was like, oh, like I thought that, I took that to mean she had just split for good, or that she was going to suffer some terrible fate. Maybe she had the best of intentions, but something happened. But instead, no, she found a crypto guy. She got them their money, and everything worked out pretty happily for everybody.
And then she found them, too. Like, how did she find them? I don't remember now.
Oh,
I don't remember either. She somehow, that's a really good question, because I think Jerry gets rid of his phone, but then somehow he gets a number from, Helen's got like an encrypted phone or a burner or something. But somehow, she was able to track him down, and they don't really...
Maybe through his lawyer or something, somehow. I don't remember. Yeah. Somehow.
Yeah, and there's... I really enjoyed this book a lot, but there were, I feel like, quite a few somehows toward the end where, it... Afterward, when you're like, oh, it was driving toward a happy ending, then in retrospect, it's like, okay, so... Yeah. Like, if something really terrible had happened, I think, again, it would have been easier to forgive some of the, like... lucky breaks they got, but it just felt like a few too many stacked up at the end, I think.
Yeah, I mean, somehow Bunny crashed his four-wheeler, did not get hurt, and there was a sympathetic person driving by in a car who just picked him up.
Well, and I really thought, because there had been kind of a build-up before that with... So they're on the white supremacist compound. They meet this very, like, creepy pastor who's, like, the spiritual advisor, and he tells Bunny, like, oh, I've got the girl just for you. And so he meets this random girl, like, right outside the compound. I was like, as he's getting in her car and he's trusting her and she's like talking to him and like putting him at ease, I thought, oh, she's going to be like involved with this creepy pastor somehow. She's going to like drive him back, but she's not. She just takes him to the gas station, drops him off, and that's the end.
Yeah. I also thought it was really interesting that just when I was going through this, thinking about characters we might talk about, for one thing, I wrote down like 40 names of characters. But there were also like another 50 characters who had names, who were maybe just like had like just that one appearance, like, Sleepy Bill was over leaning against the fence, and that was the only time we ever saw Sleepy Bill at all.
Yeah, I did like the nicknames. Like, I feel like there's a Johnny Teacup and like a Best Buy Tony.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay, Robin, what are you going to do with that ending?
One of the things that I felt like I was lacking at the end, I felt like I was going to get more psychologically inside this white supremacist organization and the mindset. And I do kind of wonder, like when you mentioned all the characters who were named on the compound that they had out there, I wonder if maybe there was too much exterior stuff going on and not enough like getting closer to Willard. Was that his name? Uncle Willard. That because I felt like there was unexplored material there.
Yeah, I do too. There wasn't a whole lot of depth to the whole white supremacist thing at all. It was all kind of around the edges.
That's true.
Interesting. The setup reminded me a lot of this podcast I listened to about the guys who were going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer.
Oh, interesting.
And what a setup it was. I mean, it really was a setup. It really was a big FBI setup. They just sent all kinds of people in to try and infiltrate these guys. And I kind of thought that's where this was going, but
I wondered that too. There's a point at which I was like, is every single person a undercover agent? Like, I started wondering if Spider was because of his likability. A couple of the other guys, I was like thinking it could come together into a situation where everybody's like freeze and there's only like 2 white supremacists there, which could have been kind of fun.
Well, and that kind of is what happened in that case in Michigan. Yeah, like they had these couple reporters got access to like hundreds of hours of recordings. And like some of these meetings, like 3 of the people were FBI and one of them was the white supremacist guy. Yeah, it was really a pretty amazing story. I do think the Dirty Cops was an interest, like that was a surprise to me.
Me
and
too.
I thought that was a really good twist.
Yeah, I thought that made the crypto element a little more interesting to me because it takes so long to realize why they're after this notebook. Like there's just, it's very hard to imagine like what value this notebook's going to have unless they're cops that really just need like the paper record because they're going to like look at the invoices and but then all of a sudden, yeah, it's about the time they're putting it together that, oh, this is a crypto wallet, that you finally realize, oh, they're not just like awful people, they're also dirty cops.
Yeah. And that means the DA was dirty too, right? Was she?
I'm not sure she knew.
She was going along with the deal.
I'm not sure if she knew or not.
Because these guys were ATF.
Right. It feels a little bit like ATF can just come in and bully people.
Yeah, maybe, but she was gonna throw this kid in jail for 12 years for headbutting a dude in the park. I don't know. I want to think she was dirty.
Okay. She is. We'll just do it. It's done.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh no, please go ahead, Jen.
I wanted to mention the other uncle in the book,
Uncle
Rayton.
Rayton,
He
yeah.
was such a great character and sort of an anti-evil uncle, and that tenderness that Bunny had toward him sort of made you understand how other people could interact with him. And like Bunny's mean boss at the cigarette store loved him.
Yeah.
Everybody just loves Bunny, and that's kind of why he had the ability to charm Jerry, who I feel like isn't all that charmable.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I've mentioned this before, but I always forget the name of that screenwriting book. Or the book is called Save the Cat. I can't remember the name of the writer, but I mean, that's like one of his things is you got to save the cat. The hero has to save the cat at the beginning of the movie, so we have empathy. And, Uncle Rayton was like Bunny saving the cat.
He was.
Yeah, he was a good guy. Okay, so I have two final questions. One is, would you recommend the book? And two is, would you read Bunny and Jerry in California, the sequel to Friends Helping Friends? Jen?
I would definitely recommend this book. I really liked it. I don't know that I want more from Bunny and Jerry, but I will probably go back and read some of this guy's other books.
Yeah. Interesting. You liked it that much?
I did. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. Robin?
Yeah, I would recommend it. Again, I don't know that I feel like I need more of Bunny and Jerry in California, although the more I say it, I think Bunny and Jerry in California is a great title. So maybe go there.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
I would too. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed spending time with these characters. I think I would read a sequel just because they were fun and they're funny in unexpected ways. And yeah, I like the book a lot and I would recommend it.
Yeah, I would too. I thought it was really good. I'm sorry, Alex, would you read more of his stuff?
I would, and I'm especially curious now, kind of hearing what Jen was saying about maybe some of the other books having darker endings. I'd be curious to hear, or just read, I guess, that contrast to see, is he typically a more like pessimistic, cynical writer? And not that I necessarily enjoy that more, but just to kind of compare how the two endings are constructed.
Yeah, I would. I think I just liked Jerry and Bunny a lot, and I'd spend another short book with them. I would definitely recommend this. I mean, it's an easy read. It's a quick read. It's fun. It's surprising. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And speaking of recommendations, does anyone have another one? Jen Bingham, do you have a recommendation for us?
I do. I was just looking up the title of it. It's another crime novel, but a very different one. It's called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. The main character, I think he writes listicles or something about mysteries and how to write good mysteries. And he's very steeped in the lore of like Golden Age detectives, but it's also very dark in some ways. So it's really fun. Talks about Agatha Christie a little bit. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was a good book.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. Robin?
I was trying to think of the last crime novel that I read that I really liked, and I just haven't been reading a lot of them lately, but last summer I reread The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith, which is so good. And I've also read most of her other novels, but the other Ripley novels, if you like Talented Mr. Ripley, I would also recommend.
Yeah, great. What a great recommendation. Yeah, Robin, I think I read it again last summer as well. That's such a good book. And I like the movie, too. Yeah. Alex?
I mentioned A Friend is a Gift You Give Yourself at the beginning of this, and that would be my recommendation. It's by William Boyle. And like this book, it's kind of a very different type of crime novel. It's about a mob widow who kind of defends herself against like an over-amorous neighbor and accidentally kills him in the process. She ends up on the lam with an ex-porn star and another woman, and it's a little bit madcap. It's kind of like a road trip chase novel. And not to give too much away, but if you like the ending of Friends Helping Friends, you'll probably like the ending of that book as well.
All right. That sounds good, too. All right. I think if I was going to recommend a crime novel, I think I would recommend Kate Atkinson's Case Histories. Has anybody read Case Histories?
Yes.
I've seen the PBS or whatever BBC miniseries, and they're great.
Yeah, I love that. And her Jackson Brody books in general are pretty good. And so Jen, we were talking. You just came back from Ireland. And I have a really good friend who has family in Ireland, and he has just got back from there. He has a new grandbaby. His name is Tim Taylor. He's been on our show before. And Tim is also a director. And when he was there in Ireland, he met a couple of young guys from Palestine, a couple of refugees from Gaza. And he interviewed them, and it was a really just kind of eye-opening interview for him that gave him some view of that tragedy on a personal level. Anyway, he turned me onto this book by Omar El Akkad. He's a novelist and a former reporter for the Toronto Globe and Mail. It's called One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This. It's a really short book. It's actually, the title is actually a shortened version of a tweet that El Akkad sent from soon after an early bombardment of Gaza, and the tweet said, "One day, when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this." Of course, that thing is genocide, and I think this is really an important book, and I hope it inspires more Americans to get beyond the yard signs and the virtue signaling and take a real stand about what our government is supporting in the Middle East. And that is it for us this month. Remember, you can stream Radio Free Book Club practically anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find notes for this and all our shows on our Radio Free Book Club Substack, which we hope you'll enjoy subscribing. For Alex Mattingly, Jen Bingham, Robin Beery, and all the members of Radio Free Book Club, I'm Ken Honeywell. Thanks for listening, and join us next month when we'll join some Vietnamese Americans in a detention camp in Kevin Nguyen's comic dystopian novel, My Documents. We hope you'll tune in. Until then, read a book.